You know that person at the airport?
Oh, yeah.
Like the one who just breezes through the security line?
Good.
Their laptop slides into the bin in one fluid motion.
Right, shoes effortlessly back on.
Exactly. And they're rolling their spinner bag toward the gate with this, like, almost imperceptible knowing smirk. They look like they were born in Terminal B.
They really do.
Meanwhile, for the rest of us, just the thought of stepping into that pressurized metal tube can induce, well, sweaty palms, a racing heart.
Oh, absolutely.
Your stomach is tied in tighter knots than an overpacked carry-on bag, especially lately, you know? So, if you are someone who has ever stared out a tiny oval window, watched a wing flex, and quietly whispered to yourself, is the engine actually supposed to make that noise?
Which is a very common thought, honestly.
Well, we have a custom deep dive into some truly fascinating source material for you today.
Yeah, and it is an incredibly common feeling. And frankly, it's a very rational one to explore. I mean, we are not naturally built from an evolutionary standpoint to hurtle through the stratosphere at 600 miles an hour.
That is reassuring to hear right off the bat, honestly. So our mission today is to decode a comprehensive guide to conquering the fear of flying. We're pulling this from the travel blog Wanderlust Over 70.
Right, written by Roberta Hill.
Exactly. Our goal here is to extract the actionable, battle-tested wisdom from a traveler who has quite literally seen it all. We want to help you trade that sheer panic for your own knowing smirk and, get you back to exploring the world. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it. And I think it's crucial to acknowledge right up front that to understand how to calm down, well, we first have to understand why the panic is there in the first place.
Right.
We have to address the elephant in the overhead bin, so to speak.
You're talking about the headlines. Because, before we can get into breathing exercises or psychological tools, we have to look at the news alerts that make our brains scream that we're in danger.
Yeah, exactly.
The source material points out a cluster of recent, highly publicized aviation incidents, specifically from June of 2025, that have put practically everyone on edge.
Yes, and these are the kinds of events that naturally capture global attention for, very understandable reasons.
Just to lay them out as they appear in the source. On June 12th, there was the tragic Air India Boeing 787 crash in Ahmedabad.
Right.
It happened shortly after takeoff, and it killed 241 of the 242 people on board. The black box was retrieved, and the ICAO...
It was the International Civil Aviation Organization?
Right. They are probing it. And the source also notes that India reportedly refused entry to a UN aviation expert.
Wow.
Yeah. Then, less than 2 weeks later, on June 24th, we saw the Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX incident in Portland. A door plug just blew out mid-flight.
Due to production errors, yeah. The crew landed it safely, but it caused rapid decompression.
And just 3 days after that, a Vietnam Airlines runway collision in Hanoi. A Boeing 787 clipped a parked Airbus A321 while taxiing.
Right, 386 people on board.
Thankfully, no injuries, but it was suspected to be a pilot or ground operations error. Now, just as a quick note for you listening, whenever our sources touch on international disputes or corporate production controversies, we were just impartially sharing what's in the material.
Right, we're not taking any stance on those issues.
Exactly. But you read a string of events like that, and it is no wonder people are terrified to book a ticket.
What's fascinating here is how our brains actually process that specific string of events.
Okay, how so?
Well, in the study of risk in psychology, there is a concept known as outcome bias. Our minds are hardwired by evolution to prioritize vivid, catastrophic, and emotionally resonant events.
Right, to keep us safe from tigers and stuff.
Exactly. So when high-profile crashes or dramatic incidents like a missing door plug dominate the headlines, they entirely hijack our risk assessment.
Your brain sees that imagery and flags the mere act of boarding a plane as an imminent, highly probable threat to your survival.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, but if the baseline safety increases every time an investigation happens, why does it feel like these incidents are happening more frequently? Like, is the system actually getting safer, or are we just getting luckier with our redundancies?
No, the system is genuinely getting safer. Outcome bias feeds your fear because it completely overshadows the boring statistical reality.
Which is what exactly?
The reality is that there are over 100,000 safe commercial flights occurring worldwide every single day.
100,000 every day.
Every single day. In the grand scheme of commercial aviation, fatal airliner crashes are exceptionally uncommon. They typically average just 1 to 2 per year globally.
But a safe routine landing doesn't make the evening news.
Right. The 100,000 uneventful flights today are completely invisible to you. Meanwhile, that one vivid Alaska Airlines incident takes up permanent residence in your memory.
I hear the math, but I have to push back a little here.
Yeah.
The source material emphasizes that commercial airlines have all these massive redundancies built into them. We know there are co-pilots, constant air traffic control monitoring, backup onboard systems.
Progress maintenance routines, yeah.
Right. So if all those fail-safes are in place to prevent a single point failure, how do we reconcile that feeling of systemic safety with something like a door plug just blowing out in the middle of a flight?
It's an entirely fair question. And it strikes right at the heart of how aviation safety actually works. The answer is that those redundancies are the exact reason why an incident like the Alaska Airlines flight ended in a safe landing.
Oh, because the fail-safes actually kicked in.
Exactly. They landed without a single fatality, despite
Right.
a massive structural failure. When that door plug blew, the cabin lost pressure. But the system is designed to absorb the unthinkable,
Right, the oxygen masks dropped immediately.
just as they're engineered to do. And the pilots are rigorously trained for exactly that scenario. They instantly initiated a controlled, rapid descent to a lower altitude where the air is breathable.
They communicated with air traffic control and navigated to a safe landing.
And the aircraft itself remained aerodynamically stable the whole time. Furthermore, every single incident triggers an immediate, relentless investigation by independent government bodies.
You mean agencies that figure out exactly what went wrong?
Precisely. Agencies like the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board in the U.S.,
Yeah.
or their equivalents, like the AIB in the UK or the TSB in Canada.
So their sole purpose is to deconstruct the failure.
Yeah. And they don't just figure it out, they mandate industry-wide changes. The Alaska 737 MAX incident immediately led to stronger regulations and manufacturing oversight.
So the aviation industry operates on a model of continuous compulsory learning.
Exactly. Every time something goes wrong, the structural and regulatory baseline of the entire global fleet is reinforced.
So if our brains are completely ignoring the math because of that outcome bias, we clearly can't logic our way out of the fear using safety records alone. Like, the math says we are safe, but our bodies violently disagree.
Right, you can't just think your way out of it.
We have to attack the emotional trigger directly. What is the source's first step for short-circuiting that emotional response?
Well, Roberta Hill points out that you first have to understand what you're actually afraid of. The fear of flying is rarely just a fear of flying.
It's usually a manifestation of something deeper.
Exactly. The text outlines 4 primary root causes of flight anxiety. First, there's the loss of control.
Right, the simple fact that you aren't the one flying the plane, you are handing your life over to a stranger behind a locked, reinforced door.
Yeah. Second is claustrophobia. You are in a tightly packed cabin, and once those heavy doors close and latch, there is nowhere to escape.
That one gets me. And the third.
Third is the physical sensation of turbulence, which your body's inner ear often incorrectly interprets as falling.
Oh, wow. So your body's physically tricking you.
Yeah. And fourth is the pure primal fear of heights or crashing, even when your logical brain knows it is safer than driving to the grocery store.
Differentiating between those 4 triggers is vital, then, because the intervention for feeling trapped is very different from the intervention for feeling out of control.
Exactly. You have to know what you're dealing with.
I actually love the analogy the author uses for this. She says you should treat your fear like an annoying travel companion.
Oh, that's such a great visual.
Isn't it? Imagine you've got this deeply pessimistic, panicky guy sitting next to you in 14B. You have to acknowledge he's there. You can't just pretend he isn't yammering in your ear.
But you absolutely do not let him pick the itinerary.
Or fly the plane. You just say, okay, I hear you, but you're not in charge. The text emphasizes the physical act of naming the beast, actually writing your specific fear down on a piece of paper.
Or saying it out loud to tame it. Yeah, it sounds so simple, almost deceptively so, but there is deep neurological truth to that practice.
So what does this all mean? How does writing down, like, I am afraid of being trapped in a tube, actually stop my heart from pounding out of my chest?
Well, when you are experiencing undefined panic, your amygdala, which is the primitive fear center of your brain, is firing on all cylinders.
It's an evolutionary alarm bell.
Right. Meant to keep you safe from tigers, but entirely useless in a Boeing 737. By forcing your brain to categorize and articulate the specific fear, you are biologically forced to engage the prefrontal cortex.
Which is the logical, executive part of your brain.
Exactly.
So you're basically moving the steering wheel of your brain from the emotional toddler in the back seat to the logical adult in the driver's seat.
That is a perfect way to put it. You are moving the experience from raw, formless emotion to analytical thought. And once you diagnose the specific trigger, you change your subsequent behavior.
Right. Instead of what the source calls doom-scrolling, sensationalized Reddit threads.
Or watching late-night crash documentaries, yeah. Which only feeds the emotional toddler. You can start seeking targeted, credible information.
Giving the adult in the driver's seat the map.
Right. If your fear is a lack of control, you can read pilot Q&As to understand their thousands of hours of rigorous training.
Or you can visit credible sites recommended in the text like Fear of Flying School or SOAR, which specifically address the aerodynamics of flight.
Yeah, you give your rational brain the data it needs to actively soothe the emotional brain.
Okay, categorizing your fear like that is great groundwork when you are sitting safely in your living room.
Or waiting comfortably at the gate.
Right. But let's get real for a second. What happens when you are at 30,000 feet, your palms are sweating, the seatbelt sign dings, and the plane suddenly drops? You can't exactly read a blog post in that moment.
No, you definitely cannot.
We need to pivot to the immediate in-flight toolkit. How do we hack the panic loop midair?
This is where we move from psychological theory to physical intervention. And the first step the source recommends is cognitive reframing.
Specifically regarding turbulence, right, which is a massive trigger for people.
Yes.
I have to highlight the source's brilliant analogies here. Roberta Hill calls turbulence potholes in the sky. When you're driving down the highway and hit a pothole, you don't assume the car is going to spontaneously disassemble into a million pieces.
No, you just grip the wheel, feel the bump, and keep going.
She also says to imagine you're on a boat in choppy water. The plane is resting on a fluid substance air. You just bounce with the waves.
And my favorite visual, she reminds us that a plane's wings are designed to flex like yoga instructors.
Yes. They aren't rigid metal blocks. They are engineered to bend incredibly far without snapping.
That mental imagery is incredibly powerful because it replaces catastrophic thoughts with structural realities.
But when that mental reframing isn't enough, like when the physical panic actually sets in and your chest gets tight,
Then you have to use physiological grounding exercises to stop the sensory hijacking. The source provides two highly effective techniques. The first is box breathing.
I've heard of this, but how does it actually stop a panic attack?
It's all about the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. When you panic, your breathing gets shallow, oxygenating your blood for a fight or flight response.
Oh, and box breathing interrupts that.
Exactly. You inhale deeply for 4 seconds, you hold that breath for 4 seconds, you exhale slowly for 4 seconds, and you hold empty for 4 seconds. And repeat.
And the exhaling part is the key.
Yeah. The slow exhalation stimulates the vagus nerve, which literally acts as a brake on your heart rate. It sends a biological, undeniable signal to your brain that you are safe.
Wow. And the second technique mentioned is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. I'm curious about the mechanics of this one.
It's a great one.
You literally name 5 things you can see around you. Maybe the seat back pocket, the flight attendant, the overhead light.
Then 4 things you can physically feel. The
Mhm.
fabric of the seat, your shoes on the floor.
3 things you can hear. The hum of the engine, the air conditioning. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing you can taste, or simply 1 thing you are thankful for. But why does listing mundane items work when you feel like you are plummeting?
Because you are giving your working memory a highly complex multisensory task. Your brain literally does not have the processing power to execute the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise while simultaneously maintaining a full-blown panic attack.
Oh, I see. It sounds like trying to run a heavy, graphics-intense video game on a really old laptop.
That's a great comparison.
You're intentionally opening so many sensory tabs in your brain that the panic software literally doesn't have the RAM to keep running. It crashes the panic.
That is exactly the mechanism. It grounds you forcefully in the present reality, where, as the author notes, nothing is actually crashing and everything is just a little dry and overpriced.
Right. To bolster that, the text notes the importance of a calming routine to keep your brain occupied. You fight the chaos of the airport with predictability.
Pack early. Arrive early so you aren't rushing and spiking your cortisol before you even see the boarding gate.
Bring soothing tools, lavender oil, herbal tea bags, noise-canceling headphones. Create a smooth takeoffs-only playlist.
And when you're on board, distract yourself like a professional. Load your phone with high-focus games like Tetris or Sudoku.
Download meditation sessions from the Calm app, or just put on a comforting British baking show. Engage your brain with literally anything other than the fear.
Absolutely.
But here's a question that I think a lot of people struggle with. The author suggests actually telling the flight crew that you are anxious.
She does.
Isn't it embarrassing to flag down a busy flight attendant who is trying to prep the cabin and check overhead bins and confess that you're terrified? Doesn't that just make you an annoying burden?
It's a very common worry, but the author strongly counters this assumption. Flight attendants are highly trained safety professionals who fly for a living.
They've seen it all.
They have seen every possible manifestation of fear imaginable. Nervous flyers aren't a burden to them. They are an opportunity for the crew to exercise care.
So you're just communicating your needs.
Right. When you vocalize your anxiety to a flight attendant, you are pulling your fear out of isolation. It means they might check on you more often.
Or give you a knowing smile when the plane hits a rough patch of air.
Or just take 20 seconds to explain that the loud clunking noise you just heard right beneath your feet was simply the landing gear retracting.
That tiny bit of professional reassurance can instantly disarm the fear because it demystifies the experience.
Exactly.
So if we look at the big picture, we understand the statistical reality versus outcome bias. We have the psychological framework to name our triggers.
And we have a physiological mid-air toolkit box breathing and sensory grounding to hack the panic.
But tools only work if you actually use them. You still have to physically walk down the jet bridge.
That's the hardest part.
And this brings us to the philosophical core of this source material. Giving yourself a why.
Yes. Why go through all of this intense discomfort in the first place?
To understand this, we really have to look at the author herself, Roberta Hill. As the name of the blog suggests, she is over 70 years old. She readily admits in the text that she is absolutely not immune to fear.
No, she's very open about it.
She writes this visceral description about clutching the armrest so hard during a landing in Kitimat, British Columbia, that she literally left fingernail marks in the plastic. She knows the terror.
She deeply understands it. And yet, if you look at the travel logs included in this text, her accomplishments are staggering.
She's been everywhere.
This is a woman who has traveled to the Galapagos Islands to see the wildlife. She's hiked Machu Picchu. She's visited the Falkland Islands, stood in front of the Taj Mahal in India.
She completed an 80-day world trip.
She's explored everywhere from riding in a tuk-tuk through the chaotic streets of Bangkok to admiring the street art in Lisbon, Portugal.
She didn't let the fingernail-gripping fear keep her grounded.
Because she came to a profound realization that she states very clearly.
What's that?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, she says, it is not about money but desire. The fundamental truth about overcoming the fear of flying is that fear shrinks when your purpose expands.
Oh, I like that.
The goal isn't to magically eradicate your fear before you fly. The goal is to make sure your reason for flying is louder and more important than your anxiety.
Right. Whether you are getting on a plane to attend your granddaughter's wedding, or you are taking a solo retreat to Bali to find yourself, that specific, tangible goal has to take center stage.
You aren't just enduring a pressurized tube. You are traveling towards something that matters deeply to you.
And she advises you to make that why tangible. Write it down. Keep a photo of your destination or the person you are going to see handy on your phone.
Yeah, visual reminders help.
But she also gives some really practical grace for the build-up to that big trip. You have to celebrate the small wins.
Yes, start small.
Your job, as she puts it, isn't to be utterly fearless. Your job is simply to get on the plane anyway. You start small, book a short 1-hour round-trip flight just to practice.
Take a trip where just sitting in the window seat gives you a tiny spark of joy. Through repetition, those fearful moments slowly become familiar.
Then they become manageable. And eventually, they become forgettable.
And if the fear is so deeply entrenched that you can't even manage a short flight, the text is clear that there is no shame in utilizing heavy-duty clinical tools.
Like what?
Some airlines offer dedicated fear of flying classes. You can pursue exposure therapy with a professional or try EMDR.
That's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, right?
Yes, a therapy that uses bilateral stimulation to help your brain process trauma. Or CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which actively rewires those catastrophic thought patterns we talked about.
There are even virtual reality flight simulators that can desensitize you safely on the ground. The point is, there's a defined, actionable pathway through the fear for everyone.
There really is.
Okay, let's summarize the journey we've been on today. We started by looking at how high-profile, scary headlines trigger our outcome bias.
making us forget the 100,000 safe flights happening every single day and the rigorous investigations that constantly improve aviation safety.
We learned that to conquer the fear, you have to name it, putting the adult prefrontal cortex back in the driver's seat, and treat the anxiety like an annoying travel companion.
Then we unpacked the midair toolkit, reframing turbulence as potholes in the sky and overloading our brain's panic RAM using box breathing and the 5-4-3-2-1 method.
And finally, we looked at Roberta Hill's incredible logs as proof that letting your desire to see the world overpower your anxiety is the ultimate key. You find your why and you let it be louder than your fear.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder, building on the specific techniques we've discussed today.
Let's hear it.
We talked about using the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique to survive the flight, finding 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste.
Right.
In the air, it's a defensive tool to notice the dry air, the hum of the engine, the overpriced snacks, simply to escape the panic.
Mm.
But think about the profound shift in perspective. If you applied that exact same sensory exercise after you land in a place you've always dreamed of visiting.
Oh.
Imagine standing in front of the street art in Lisbon or watching the sunset in Maui. If you can train your brain to vividly catalog the mundane details of an airplane cabin to escape panic, imagine how intensely and beautifully that same focused, mindful awareness could help you experience your destination once you step off the plane.
The very tools you use to survive the journey might just be the exact same tools that help you truly, deeply experience the destination. That's an incredible thought.